Hello ratbags, it's Jade with some big mistakes that I made playing Assassin's Creed. It's a huge game and not everyone's going to have the perfect run, and I don't think you need to. You're going to make some mistakes. But I wanted to point out some of the stuff I've learned in around 41 hours of playing the game now, completing Norway absolutely to the max, and doing a lot of stuff like getting all the abilities and weapons, and I just don't want you to waste your time. It's a big chunking game, over 100 hours if you want to do most of the stuff. At least 60 to 80 for just a medium style playthrough. So follow some of my tips hopefully, and they'll give you a little bit of a clue how to help you get through this huge game. You will still have weapons coming out of your arse. Maybe not as much as Odyssey where you got one every 2 seconds, but there's still plenty to find whether or not you buy them from traders or you just do it by completing story. And that's the big one. Abilities and weapons, you'll find so much by doing just the story. I implore you to do 3 or 4 regions and see how many stuffs you got, and then maybe next 2 regions go specifically for some of the big gold spots. You'll find that you'll have to retread your footsteps all the time. Despite the world being filled and huge with all of these yellow gold markers, the game kind of says to you, no, follow the story and you'll pretty much get them all anyway. For sure there's a couple abilities that you won't be able to get unless you really head out your way, but the vast majority of these you will unlock while playing it. Don't waste time, follow the story. I know that sounds a bit mad in a bigger game like this where you want to explore. Sure, go ahead and take part in a lot of the maybe mystery events. They're always fun and they do give you a shed ton of XP. But in terms of gold, I wouldn't necessarily travel for miles out of your way unless you exactly know what's there. Hopefully that's where some of my other detailed guides will come in handy. And that leads on to number 2 mistake. Don't spend too long trying to get carbon ingots. I cleared out the whole of Norway. I went round and done every single bit of wealth, every mystery and artifact. I spent easily 10 to 12 hours in the beginning stages. Hence why I've not maybe advanced as far as I would like. And in doing so though, it meant I did have lots of carbon ingots to go ahead and upgrade nearly all of my weapons. Obviously my armors too, but I really don't use a lot of these either. Sure, you may want to test a few out, but definitely don't waste your carbon ingots on a weapon that you really don't think you're going to get to grips with. If you're not feeling it at its base level, it's not going to go massively improved that much just by upgrading it to mythical. Remember, you only get extra rune slots when you upgrade. You don't generally add anything extra to the weapon itself. What you really need loads of is iron and leather, and then hopefully trying to get as much of the titanium as possible to upgrade and get your stats better. So never pass up the opportunity to buy iron from a trader or maybe gather some in the wild. In the beginning stages, axes are OP, and particularly if you manage to dual wield them, holding the L1 button is pretty phenomenal. Whether it's a 2-handed axe like I've got, or going absolutely buck wild with 2 axes, I found these 2 weapon sets are pretty much some of the best. I've shown you guys how you can defeat and fight zealots by using your abilities and your specials, and then going ahead and spamming holding the L1 button, and that is pretty much a reliable way to beat most of the zealots. But equally, by the time you get hold of a 2-handed axe like this, I just find it so massively different and OP. You can literally blow players and enemies away just with a whole bunch of spamming the heavy attacks. A flail works really well for this as well. Also holding the L1 with the flail is a really good ability or attack too. The other side note about not having to go and get all these carbon ingots, that when you open up your trading post, which should be one of the first things you unlock the minute you get the chance, at level 3 you'll be able to get carbon ingots from them. At least that's what I'm at the moment, and it's only just popped up that I can buy them. Previously I was only able to buy iron ore and leather, and you may think they're pretty expensive, but generally I never run out of silver. I do kind of loot every chest and pot I go through while I'm doing missions, and I've still been able to buy a bunch of stuff. In fact, any time I visit a trader or one's nearby, I usually get as much iron ore as possible, as that's the one thing that I've been running out of. But again, that's another mistake of mine. I wasted way too many of them upgrading every weapon just to see if they would massively improve. I'm guessing at level 5 and 6 I'll also be able to buy some of the nickel ingots from my trader too. That leads me on to the 3rd mistake. Don't waste too much time upgrading your settlement. You'll actually upgrade your settlement just by completing the stories. Every region you unlock, the blue bar will fill up a little bit. So if you're not particularly fond of the raiding that's in the game, going around and visiting all of these red markers and completing them, you can pretty much get away with just doing the bare minimum for the story. you'll still be able to enjoy some of the benefits of your settlement. I want to keep this video pretty breezy and light, but I have going to have a dedicated settlement guide once more, redoing what I've already done and giving you guys a heads up of what to expect in more fuller picture. But pretty much, as you explore, as you get more through it, you're going to build up your settlement a bit more, and some of these buildings will become more useful, like the Assassin's Bureau. Some of the enemies that you'll face by getting contracts from them, you won't be able to get there and do them until you get a much higher level, and a lot of them you'll come across them naturally anyway. Also, things like the stables, you can go ahead and visit any stables anywhere in the map and you'll be able to buy the same upgrades that you can for your horse or change your skins. The Jobs Viking or army barracks, you don't necessarily need that either, because I've just found them all pretty useless. Like, there hasn't been a time where they've really helped me. I've gone about my business, whether it's a raid or just going in somewhere pretty quiet. And so the idea that you switch and move some of your people that you've recruited, I just haven't found it really useful just yet. Obviously it's a big part of the game, and yes, you might find a bit of a delight walking around your settlement, and you do you. But I just find that some of the stuff that I previously thought is kind of not true. The two things I really want out of my settlement is the Seer's Hut, so I can go to Asgard, which is another realm, although that becomes not really worth it as the resources and the stuff, the rewards you get for completing it, aren't really that great just yet. Also, I would like to get the Cartographer's Hut, as that's going to give me some maps and access to certain resources, things like abilities and weapons and armors, and it's pretty cheap to buy them. You do get some fairly decent quest lines with the Hunter's Hut and the option to romance someone there, and that gives you a hell of a lot of XP, but none of the other places really do that. You can also customise your skin, i.e. get some tattoos in other places all around the world. So again, it's somewhere else you don't necessarily have to go just for this to do upgrades and cosmetics. The one thing you can't do anywhere else in the world is change the look of your longboat. You do have to build a shipyard for that one. I would literally wait until you've completed at least maybe 4 regions before really seriously considering trying to upgrade or really home in on getting to level 3. You might find you're already at level 1.5 or nearly at 2. And then that way you don't have to complete as many raids to upgrade to the stuff you really want. AC Valhalla is a long ass game, and anything to reduce that for me is a plus. I'm enjoying it, of course I am, but them raids do get a little bit tedious. As I said, I've got a much more detailed guide incoming about the settlements. I nearly just want to get to the last level, then I'll be delivering you my final verdict on what you should and shouldn't do with your settlement if you want progression and you want to get certain things that are going to be useful. For me, it's all about how much silver I can save, whether or not my time is going to be saved, and that's what matters to me in stuff like this. So I've included it as part of the settlement, and I'll touch on it just a little bit here now. Don't bother with Asgard just yet. It's level 90 anyway, so it's going to be a while. I ended up getting there a little bit earlier. Yes, you get to meet some of the gods, but the storyline is a little bit disappointing so far. I haven't completed the full map yet, the storylines, and see what kind of reward I get. I'm guessing it's going to be some big amount of XP, and I do know you get some skins and stuff for completing it. You can see these golden resources that you're meant to go and collect all scattered around the map too. Collecting these tier stones, they're meant to hopefully give you some decent reward. And the reward for collecting all 30 of them, which will take a significant amount of time as a lot of them are kind of puzzle based, well, all you get for your trouble is 5 skill points. Again, it may be something that you really want to get loads of, but you'll find plenty of them by completing the story and just going about your business. This is definitely one area to save until you get to at least around level 90, and so you can breeze through it pretty quickly. Last thing I would say is don't pay too much attention to this guy. He is a crook. Yeah, he's cute and he's got some stories. And I'm sure you're probably thinking, oh, I like the look of that one. But the amount of opals you need to buy some of this stuff is absolutely crazy. As I said, I scoured Norway and I've been doing my good job of pretty much going around to all of the wealth areas, and I've still only managed to get 101 opals. That's just about enough to buy one bracer set. You will find comparable weapons and armors out in the world, so there's no need to waste your time looking specifically for opals. This effectively is the free Helix shop. It will have Helix items. You can get sometimes different mount skins.
Have you got a contract for me?
I guess it's a good way that they offer something where you can earn it for free. But the contracts themselves that you need, well, they're pretty rubbish. They'll only give you 5 opals usually when completing them. You only get a maximum of like maybe 2 or 3 a day. So yeah, ignore this dude. Don't panic too much about opals. By late game, I'm sure you'll have enough to go and buy something pretty, but yeah, it's just not worth your hassle finding a map online and going and getting all the opals that you can. Problem with these types of videos, it feels like I'm having a bit of a whinge or a moan. I promise you I'm really enjoying the game, but if you want to just get a bit more out of it and don't want to necessarily waste your time, as the game is obviously over 100 hours long to complete, I just think it's worth knowing some of this stuff. The next one is when you get to around, I would say 70, maybe a bit higher points, you can then start messing around and seeing exactly what every part of the skill tree offers. Sure, you can get a little list, but Google isn't always your friend when you actually want to see and live it and see exactly what they will do. Remember, these are supplemental skills or abilities that you get given, and sometimes they're very similar to the ones that you've already found in the world. For sure, it's definitely worth resetting every once in a while and just following a complete chain and seeing exactly what that has to offer. It's a bit of a pain in the butt having to go through every single one, but by putting some points and sinking them in, you can really start to get to flavour for some of the abilities that are really worthwhile and some that are just maybe not worth going in that direction. You do also find that some weapons will be kind of repeated in certain areas. You will find bonuses for flails in other parts of the skill tree too. I'd say that would be another good reason to maybe go in certain directions. And what you really want to be doing is just hovering over these and seeing if they are something that you think complements your style. And this is definitely where I need to take my own advice. I'm literally only learning about some of these skills now that I've got more points and I've started to explore more of the skill tree. Like the missile reversal, some of you guys have been telling me that's a great way to take out zealots, but I've always been focusing so much on my bear and my raven abilities, I've really not been concentrating at all on my wolf. Also didn't realise you can also get another adrenaline shot in the wolf tree system. If you sink some points into the raven, you'll also find there's 2 chances to get more adrenaline here as well. So as I said, with around 70 points, you should pretty much be able to reach 1 or 2 of the outline skill trees. And you can really start to see whether or not that skill or ability is going to be something you want to work towards or have. But there's definitely some really good ones, and particularly anything that gives you more adrenaline I would work towards. Also anything that slows down time for dodging pretty much means you're just going to have extra abilities, and these are always handy to get you out of a bind, particularly when surrounded by higher level enemies or you are taking on some of the zealots. So don't get too set in your ways, hit 70 skill points, maybe even a bit lower, and go down every single one of these trees, take 10 minutes out of your game time and see what they all really offer. Obviously some skills complement others. I think this is why it's better to do it in game rather than just looking up a wiki on IGN. And number one thing, please make sure that your armour kind of matches more or less what skills you got the most. For sure, if you've been going a bit all round, then it's not going to really matter what armour set you wear. But if you exclusively put all of your points into bear, really do make sure that your armour set matches. These little nodes that give you extra bonuses, they really stack up. By the time you start unlocking maybe 6 or 7 of these, you can be giving yourself 25% extra stun damage. Or your evade scores are going up by about 4 or 5 points, meaning you can quickly get out of the way of most attacks. So if you've got a few spare points still, and you haven't got enough maybe to reach your next big ability you want, have a double check and make sure you can't get one of these Way of the Wolf or Way of the Bear or Way of the Ravens. I would say definitely the wolf stuff really is all about ranged combat. The bear though tends to kind of be a little bit more mixed. Particularly in this range or this area, you'll find that more and more you'll come across abilities that are geared towards bow users too. Number 5, you do get given a choice mostly in what region you will go and complete next. When I first arrived in England, it was either Leicestershire or Grantsbridge. I would say go to Leicestershire first. Pretty much follow where your brother is. You still need to maybe do Grantsbridge before getting on to the next stage, but it definitely felt like some of the stuff and abilities I'd got in Leicestershire would definitely have benefited me a lot better or quicker rather than clearing at Grantsbridge. In fact, I felt by doing Grantsbridge I was way too overpowered for Leicestershire and the challenge started to drip away. And that's the next big thing. Make sure that you aren't afraid to mix the difficulty up a little bit. Now this goes 2 ways. I've got mine on default and I always have, and I've got guaranteed assassination off. Unlike every other YouTuber in the world telling you to go and take out this elite and this bad guy really super easy, even turns out they've got it turned on. Now I'm messing around, you guys play your game how you want, but I would definitely say don't be scared of putting it on a maybe harder difficulty. You will find by the time you get to level 100, you're already coming across way too much easy stuff going on. Sure, you could go to a region that is a bit higher powered. Again, then that kind of goes against what I've said about sticking to the story. You'll end up doing a bunch of stuff in this region and then having to redo it all once you do get to the story part. A comfortable level whenever you go to a place is, I would say, around 20 levels below. So when you hit level 70, you may want to see if you can go and visit London level 90. Same goes for Asgard and places like that. I was level 50 when I started completing all the Leicestershire stuff, and that was down to me really actually spending far too long in Norway. I also did do a huge amount of raids, and I've got loads of experience from going and getting all of the weapons and the abilities. So if it's something you actually like in the game and you just prefer it to be a bit easier, then yeah, the more obviously mysteries you do, the more XP you're going to get. And then lastly, into spoiler territory now. Well, I say spoiler, it's going to be very light. I'm not really going to go into any details, but you may have heard something about choices. I'm not going to list all the choices here. And if you really don't want any type of help or guidance around choices, then I would say see you later. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time. Now, these 5 choices revolve around Sigurd. Before you leave Norway, you pretty much get given a chance to take what you feel is yours, taking some of the hard-earned resources with you. But Sigurd doesn't want you to, he wants you to leave them with his father. This is one of the 5 that kinda may piss Sigurd off. I'm not going to tell you the rest, other than just to say that obviously think about stuff that might piss Sigurd off. Sleeping with his missus might be one of them. And if you cop this up too many times, you'll lose the ability to keep him in the long run. Don't worry, he's not going to meet a grisly end, but he might not be around the settlement as often as you might like, and pretty much you can muck it up 3 times. And even then, if you have made the wrong decision 3 times, you'll still get given 1 extra chance to redeem one of them decisions. So i.e. cock things up badly enough, and you still might just get 1 more go at hopefully keeping him in your settlement. To be fair, I don't really know what's going to happen when you keep him. I'm guessing he just becomes more like a Jomsviking, and he'll be a guy that will come with you on raids and stuff. That's pretty much all of the choices amount to. You'll get loads of options to settle disputes and side with one person or the other, and a lot of it's just not going to make much difference. Occasionally you might have another enemy or another person turn up a bit later, but otherwise the 5 big ones are related to your brother, and like I said, that's the only real difference. Some of these people may join your Jomsviking and you can use them in raids. So there you go, 7 kind of big mistakes with a lot of caveats and a lot of little tips here and there amongst them all. If you've got any, let me know, and I will be back once I've got through another 40 levels to give you some more guides, and hopefully you won't be making the same mistakes I did. I hope you're enjoying the game, I'm enjoying it still, and I'll see you guys next time in Valhalla.